My name is Ruth Sutton. I live in England and I've been coming to Canada for 15 years now, working with school districts from coast to coast on how we actually use assessment in the classroom to improve student learning, all the practicalities and the principles that go with that. The learning map seems an obvious way to do business. It seems obvious to me. As soon as you define outcomes, then it seems obvious that you have to try and find a way of graphically organising the evidence that would lead you to a judgment about those outcomes. And what's different, though, is this is not the way assessment judgments have traditionally been made in North America. They've often been made numerically. You give children things to do and you give them a mark. And then you add up all the marks and get a big mark and put the mark on the report and think that that's going to help the student or the parent or the family to understand where the student is at. Now, you don't have to be Einstein to work out what the flaws are in that process, because you end up with a mark that can be compared to other students' marks, but it doesn't tell you anything about what the student has got that mark for or how that mark could be improved. But that marking process, that numeric cumulative marking process, is so ingrained in the way teachers do business, and students expect the business to be done, and parents expect the information to be offered to them, that we've got some serious cultural habits to unpick here before we can actually replace it with anything else. And that, I think, is going to be interesting, because assessment in North America is definitely on the move. It's a little, in some cases, behind what's been happening elsewhere, but it's moving. And because of the reporting function, there is a very close connection between what teachers do on this basis and what parents expect. And I think some of the bumps in the road are going to be about a change in the way learning is described and a change in the way in which we operate assessment and report to parents. And as we know, many parents are uncomfortable with change, many teachers too. So the change process is an interesting place to be. I think in 10 years' time we'll look back and we'll say, why didn't we always do it this way? But right now it feels a little strange, a little new, a little anxiety creating, and we've got to take it slow, we've got to be optimistic, we've got to be very clear about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and help our parents to come along with us. There's a further benefit of the learning map too, which isn't so much for reporting purposes, but for day-to-day teaching purposes. If you've really carefully done your wording, put the wording on the learning map in words that students can understand, and possibly talk to the students about it as you were creating it, then this is something that you and the student together can look at. It's the third point, if you like, between the teacher and the learner, is what it is. Here it is in front of us. Here it is. What are we trying to get you to show us? What's the evidence that we're looking for? And if you clarify those expectations for students, the likelihood is that more of them will understand what it is you're looking for and be able to give it to you. So the learning map becomes a point of conversation between teacher and student. And you can not only say to the student, look what I've highlighted, this is where I think you're up to, but you can also ask the student to look, what's the next one up, the next level up from where you're at now? What does it say? What do we mean by that? How is that different from where you're at now? And what would it take? What would you need to do in your learning to achieve that higher level? So the expectations are clear and progressive. It's not just a snapshot of where the student is. It's a guide, a map for the student about where they need to go next.